This trip was to kind of repeat what we did last time and see if we couldn't catch a shark that we could put a smart tag on. So the goal was to really focus on that. And we had a couple near misses. You know, we had a shark in the net. We had one tangled. It was all set. We had to drag it offshore. And then right about the time we were getting ready to try to get it in the sling, it busted through the net. Very close. Turned out it was a little bit bigger than Patrick estimated from the drone, which would have made it a bit of a handful. Kind of like the first time you were out last time when we caught that one, probably about that same size. And, you know, there just weren't that many small sharks around at the time. One of the things we did find, though, is we did bump into some big ones, some adults that people have been telling us about it, but we had never really seen ourselves. And it turns out that they were at the south end of where we work, around the outer part of the reef. Yeah, so that was Saturday morning. We just got on site. We had got Tom situated, and we were out with the two boats searching. You know, we spent quite a few, you know, probably an hour or two trying to get to that point, and it was probably around 11 where we got a shark that looked good and everything looked good, and then got in the net. Everything was going great. We had to back the boats offshore so we didn't end up in the surf. And, you know, that was always a challenge, you know, with two boats and a shark in the net between them. And then just as we got one boat anchored, so we would hold position and we're getting ready to get the sling, the shark breached. So it jumped while it was in the net. And that's when a bunch of people went, ooh, that's bigger than we thought. And then Ryan had a hold of it and it gave two tugs and it busted right through. We went out again in the afternoon after lunch and then looked for a couple hours. We didn't want to try to net much later than 3 because that would put us a late start date to start time to start tracking. So we decided that we would just jab tag, and I think we got a tag out that afternoon, right, Ryan?
We got 2.
Oh, we got 2. Okay.
Yeah. One was kind of a Saved by the Bell moment. It was right when we were
right at the end.
Yeah, it was right when we were getting ready to pack up and leave, and a shark came swimming right out to Tom's boat, like right off the stern of Tom's boat, and we're like, oh my gosh, there's a shark right here. And so we jumped in the boat real quick and went out and tagged it while it was just hanging out.
They were sitting there saying, okay, well let's just kind of start packing up and we'll just start moving out. And all of a sudden someone goes, look at that shadow right behind the boat. And then it went past the boat and turned around and came back.
And then we tried to do it again Sunday morning with the plan of if we got a shark, we would stay until Monday morning. And then, you know, the goal was to try to, you know, do the same thing. And we had some sharks that were, you know, they were kind of on the cusp in terms of size, that 6 to 7 foot range. And, you know, we had one that like ran the net, bumped into the net, kind of got stuck for a second and then bounced out.
So we set out BRUVs the first day, and then in the evening we did a morning set and then an evening set. We saw white sharks on those. We saw leopard sharks. We saw bat rays. There's a bunch of fish. Like it was a really good set.
Yeah, so I have a couple undergrads that are working on that. So they've been kind of learning how to use, you know, GIS and some of the software. We've given them a bunch of the data, and they're now in the process of going through and looking at that. So there's a group there's a student looking at bat rays. There's another student looking at shovel-nosed guitarfish and all the other species like leopard sharks. And then the other grad student is using our white shark data. And then the 4 of them are going to come together and pool their data and then start to look at that. So it's been a kind of a training project for undergrads. But, you know, when Ryan gets this next paper done, that's probably the next one we really need to dig into. So there's more data than we have time and people qualified to analyze. So, but it's good for students because they're kind of learning and getting a feel for it. And they're kind of discovering things as we are from new data, which is kind of cool. So there's a database, there's an engine out here that identifies specific species. So some of my students are already starting to play with that a little bit. The error rates are kind of high because unlike the Caribbean where you get nice crystal clear water, it is not crystal clear here. So, Elizabeth spends a lot of time going back and forth through the video, trying to see what's in the murk and identify things as species. So those AI engines are pretty good if the water's clear, but if the water isn't clear, they struggle. So your probability of positive ID, is down in the 20s and 30s. Whereas if the water's nice and clear and it's an easy species and it's close enough to the camera, positive IDs can be up around 90%, which is pretty good, right? So there are some engines that have been tested on thousands of images of California species. So those are available, and some of my students are just now starting to play with those. You can run things through them, and then you have to run through them yourself anyway because you find the ID rates are too low. Yeah. It will get better, but it'll take a lot more time, right? So people have to characterize and add thousands of images. So it'll only get better over time. It's just not good enough right now to get us where we need to be. But that doesn't mean we're not going to be continuing to use it or contributing to it and those things. It's just, at this point, it's not efficient enough for us to pump through and say, okay, let's write a paper. Great. So Tony, as you know, working on the Valkyrie is great. It's a great boat. It's very comfortable. It's very cushy for us. But the Valkyrie, without Tom, it would not be the same experience without you. So thank you. You make it enjoyable, you make it stress-free, all those things. Valkyrie is not the same without Tom.
Yeah, well, thank you. Yeah. As I said before, my role is to be there to service all of you. So just keep your projects running. So
well, thank you.
If I can take away the stress of being there and food preps and stuff, happy to do it.
You make it easy. Usually what you get is a boat owner or a captain who's going, you can't do this, you can't do that, don't touch this, don't touch that. We can't go at this time, we can't go at that time. Yeah. I've been through those, and those are hard to work. You make it stressful, right? That never happens with Tom. So, and I try to get my people to be respectful of other people's stuff and be careful and all that. And they're by and large pretty good. But when you put 6 or 8 people on a boat,
and you forget.
It looks like a refugee boat that blows up and there's stuff everywhere. And
it's my pleasure. No, like I said, I've enjoyed everybody who's been aboard. It's been a real pleasure.